Thanks, Felicia. Welcome everyone to our DIY 100 Days t-shirt. So if you've ever had a little one in schools that have celebrated the 100 days, then you probably already know about this project. It's probably been something you've been doing at midnight the night before the 100 days. But today we're going to do a little preparation. So if it's not quite your 100 days yet at school, we'll get you started. We'll give you all the materials you need. And if you have a child that's going to be going through the 100 days next year, then you're way ahead of the game. And so you can help us brainstorm, you can help us come up with some different ideas. But the project is usually to create some kind of t-shirt that celebrates the first 100 days of school. Usually the kids have already learned how to count all the way up to 100. And so it's fun to sometimes add some kind of element to the t-shirt that involves the number 100. So maybe there's 100 little pieces on there or 100 different things that go along with whatever it is the saying is that we're going to select. So let's go ahead and switch over to my other camera and I'll show you what we're making today. Today we are going to be using the phrase 100 days sharper, and we're going to focus on kind of like a little shark popping up out of the water. And then all the little 100 pieces here are kind of like little shark tooth, kind of little shapes that are shaped like the shark teeth. And we have all those cute little triangles. So the goal there is to make 100 of them and have your little one kind of cut those and try and figure those out together so that they can practice their counting, they can get all the little pieces. This is a good teamwork project for grown-ups and for kids to kind of do together. There's some parts that are going to be a little easier for grown-ups than for the kids, but there are, of course, plenty of fun things for the kids to add on. So if you come up with some ideas, if you have some questions as we go, let us know in the chat. Felicia did share a template. I'm not really going to use a template as we go. I'm kind of just going to free form some of these shapes. But if you want to be exactly the same as the one that I have, then go ahead and download that template. Another idea, if you don't have a template, or if you don't have a printer, you can also purchase some different stencils at Michael's that have the 100 numbers and that have some letters that you can use as well. So I'm going to be freehanding, but if you don't trust yourself freehanding, or if you don't want to quite risk that, you can use some of the stencils or you can use the templates. So the template today has a little shark's mouth. So I use the blue and then I use the red to go inside the mouth. Or another idea we have for the exact same phrase is to do 100 days sharper and kind of have the focal point being a cactus instead of a shark. And if you use the cactus, I recommend that the little pieces that add up to be the 100 be like little black prickly parts from the cactus, the little points. So you can just cut a little spike here and there and just have 100 spikes going around. But I like this phrase that we're using today that says 100 days sharper. Now, those of you who are watching with me, I would love for you to give us some more starter ideas. So instead of saying 100 days sharper, what's another one that you might put? So if you put some ideas in the chat, then I can read them out loud and I can share them with everybody who's going to watch this video in the future when the video is on YouTube as well. So 100 days sharper is what we're using today, but what would you use as your phrase? So let us know in the chat or in the Q&A. And this is, again, what the different templates look like if you want them to be exactly the same as the one that I'm going to be doing in class. So I have a Make Market t-shirt, and I'm going to be using an extra small, a kids youth extra small, but of course pick whatever size is appropriate for your little one. And I'm going to be using sticky back foam. So this sticky back foam comes in lots of different colors. I suggested getting the primary color kit for today, but you're welcome to pick out special colors if there's something that's not in that pack that you might want to be using. And what's nice about the sticky back foam is that you're going to create pieces that once the 100 days are over, if you want to, you can remove these and still have a t-shirt that then you could tie-dye, or maybe you could use another year for another time you need to have a particular t-shirt. So they are not going to be permanent. They are not going to be washable with the foam, but they are going to all easily come back off at the end of the day. Hopefully they'll stay on during the day. but I think this is just one of those kind of one-time use shirts. And then if you want to reuse the blank t-shirt, you can do lots of other things with it as well. So I'm going to start cutting, and I'm going to be cutting out the message that says 100 days. So I'm going to use a red sticky back foam to cut the number 100. And what I like to do with this foam is I usually like to fold it and come up with fourths. So when I fold it, I crease it and come up with fourths. Now, if you have a little one, you can do the folding, and then maybe they can do the cutting so that they can participate too. And I'm going to show you a style of block lettering that I was taught a long, long time ago that I still use all the time. So I'm not doing a lot of measuring right now. I'm not doing any tracing. This is kind of how I do these block letters freehand. I'm folding these, and each time I'm folding them, I'm making the little rectangles of sticky back foam to be the exact same size. And I'm making these the same size so that when I cut out numbers or letters, that they all kind of make sense together in that same size. So I have these that will make up the 100, and then I'm going to have some black letters that make up the word days. And I'm going to go back through because this is a number 1. When I'm doing my block letters, I'm picking a thickness. So you can see that with my scissors, I've kind of picked about 1/2 of an inch for the thickness. And I'm going to make my number 1 kind of dip down a little bit. So I'm going to go up to the top and kind of give it this downward movement to make that little tail. So I've made my number 1 without doing any tracing or anything like that, just kind of cutting out the block letters. Now I'm going to keep that thickness in mind. And when I go to my 100, my 2 zeros, I'm going to fold my sticky back foam in half. And why I'm folding it in half is so that I can kind of keep my number symmetric. And I'm going to start cutting out the center oval. And I'm trying to keep the outside that I'm going to leave to be about the same thickness as my block number 1. And then I'm going to round out these corners. So I do a lot of my block lettering by hand without a stencil or without a pattern because I'm kind of using some math and using some symmetry to keep my letters nice and even. I'm going to do the same thing where I'm going to fold this in half, and I'm going to cut out the oval in the center, leaving the thickness around the 0 that's pretty similar to the other thicknesses of the letters I've done so far. I'm going to round those corners. And I have my 100. Now, because this is on sticky back foam, I can just simply peel off these backing papers and stick them directly to the t-shirt. Now, if you want a more permanent look, or if you're afraid that all of these are going to fall off before your child is able to present their 100 days t-shirt, you can, of course, use hot glue. You can use regular glue. You can use lots of things along with the adhesive if you want it to be more permanent. But if you do want to be able to take these back off later and use the shirt again, I think the sticky foam will do just the trick. So we have 100, and now we're going to move on and do the word days. And then we're going to get into our design in the middle with that shark mouth that's nice and open. So remember, I'm folding these. They're 6 by 9. And so 6 going across is the shorter side of the width. And I cut across there, made these into fourths. And I'm going to cut that line. So this might be something too where the adult is cutting the letters, or maybe the adult already has the letters cut out, and then the kids can peel off the stickers and put them onto the shirt so that you're kind of working together to get this done. I'm folding this in half, and lucky for us, the word days has exactly 4 letters, D-A-Y-S. So these are all going to be the same thickness with our rectangles. There we go. And I'm going to take each one of these and I'm going to do my block letters too. So the letter D, I'm just going to curve the top and curve the bottom. And I'm going to leave the rest in place. And then I need to take out a little bit of the center. So I'm going to fold the letter D in half. And I'm going to match this straight line and cut at the thickness of the other letters and kind of follow along and cut out that center section. And I am using kids' scissors just to show you that this is definitely something the kids can do as well. So I have my first letter D. When I'm making the A, I want the A to be symmetric. And so I'm going to fold it in half long ways. And I'm going to make the diagonal part of the A first. So you saw that I cut that off to make that diagonal portion. And I'm going to go back to it, fold it in half, and I'm going to cut the bottom of the A and cut a little rectangle out of the center. So this is what I have so far. And then of course I need to cut out a little hole in here. So I'm going to match the thickness of my block letter. And then here I'm going to cut kind of like a triangle out of the A. And I have a really nice block letter A. For my Y, I'm going to fold it in half because the symmetry is going to go long ways again. And I'm going to cut the diagonal towards the center. And then I'm going to make the stem of the Y straight. So this is what I have so far. I'm going to fold it in half again, and I'm going to cut out a triangle in the middle of the Y. And I have a good block Y. And now the S, I think, is usually the hardest when it comes to block lettering. So I want to kind of show you what an S, when you break it down into very basics, looks like. So let me take a piece of paper here and kind of show you. The letter S basically looks like this, or like a number 5. So if this is a rectangle and you're making a letter S, what you want to do is you want to cut out a rectangle here, and you want to cut out a rectangle here, and then start curving some of the rest of this to actually look like an S. So an S is made out of a rectangle taken out here and a rectangle taken out here. And I'll show you more of what that looks like when I do it. So up top, I'm going to cut out a rectangle. So this is where I'm at so far. On the bottom, I'm going to cut out a rectangle. So it kind of looks like a number 5, like a digital number 5 on a digital clock. But then we can do a little bit more to it to make it into an S. So we're going to put some curves along the top here and here and here and here to kind of make it more curvy for the S. So I'm cutting this corner into a rounder S shape. And the reason I first started learning how to do these block letters, I learned this a long time ago when I was little, was because I was doing science fair projects. And I don't know if any of you are old enough to have done a science fair where you needed those trifold boards and you had to have your statement and your hypothesis and all these kinds of things. So we use these block letters to get our science project boards ready to go. So here we go. We have 100 and we have days, and I'm going to make the days kind of go down. And now we're going to add our shark's mouth. So we're going to cut this shark's mouth out of like a blue, and then we're going to go inside of that with a red. And if you want to use the template, you're more than welcome to, but this is something that you can pretty easily freehand as well. So here's my 6x9 piece of foam. And so the shark's mouth is really just going to come to a point. And of course, it depends on the size of your kid's shirt as well. So if I fold this foam in half, and I'm going to take it up to this point right here. And I fold it in half so that it's symmetric. I'm going to use the point, and I'm just going to kind of curve, freehand it down to the bottom. So if you don't feel like tracing, if you don't want to take all that extra time, you don't have to. You can just kind of make these shapes as you go. And then I'm going to make the red mouth that goes inside of that with some red sticky back foam. So I'm also going to fold this in half to make it symmetric. And I know that the point of this one goes up to about here. And the width is going to go to here. So right now I'm kind of using that as like a cutting template to help me know where I need to gauge my curve to go so that I have a nice red mouth. So I have the inside of the shark's mouth. I want to cut this down just a little bit again. There we go. Now let me show you how the sticky back foam, how easy it is. I'm going to take the red and take off the white backing, and this whole back is adhesive, so it can go onto this other piece of foam. And once you have it placed down, it's pretty much going to stay in place. Foam to foam is going to be much harder to take off than foam to fabric, so you can keep that in mind. And then we want some kind of like little eyes. So I happen to have some of these black little rectangles left over from what I was cutting out of my block letters for the days. So I'm going to take two pretty small rectangles, and I'm going to use these pretty small rectangles as kind of like eyes. So I'll move that up a little closer for you to see. And I'm just going to kind of position them there so that it's kind of like the mouth of like Jaws coming out of the water. And we are definitely 100 days sharper, no doubt. Sharper for sure. I'm going to kind of tilt them, kind of give it that tilted direction. Match them up. I like that so far. Looking good. And then this is a great opportunity for the kids to play along too, is making some of these teeth. So when I'm making some teeth, I mean, my shark has been through some stuff. So its teeth are pretty yellow because, you know, it's been eating all kinds of things on the bottom of the ocean and all kinds of other animals. So when you have a little strip like this is a great way for the kids to participate. When you're cutting triangles, you're just going to cut a diagonal, cut a diagonal, cut a diagonal, and cut as many of these kind of sharp teeth as you want. And we're going to take a couple of the shark teeth and actually put them in the shark's mouth. And then this is what we're going to do to count up to our 100 of something that's going to be on our shirt. So I'm taking any of these triangles and I'm kind of placing them around in the shark's mouth to get us started with a row of teeth. And this is definitely something that your little one can help with. It looks fun already. And if you don't want to do a shark, if you want to do a cactus, I do have the pattern for the cactus to do. And instead of doing teeth, you can do little cactus prickly bits. And you can make just like these little rectangles, like the eyes of the shark, are kind of what I did to fill out the rest of the shirt with some of those prickly parts of the cactus. I think maybe one more here up at the top. And you can decide if you want to count these ones on the mouth as part of your 100, or if you want 100 other shark's teeth around. So we're doing pretty well so far. And again, if you have other ideas, the 100 Days Sharper. So Felicia and I can add in some ideas too. One of my ideas for 100 Days Sharper, another thing that's sharp is maybe you could think about pencils. So maybe the central picture is going to be a pencil that's really sharp and nice and ready to write with. So I'm sure there are other things, maybe a porcupine. So what other things can you think of that would make 100 Days Sharper make sense? And we can add those into our group chat as well. I'm going to start working on the sharper letters. And basically with the sharper letters, I'm going to do the exact same style of block letters. But once I have the letter, I'm going to kind of accent it and make it a little like a shark was eating on it, so that I'm going to kind of cut out some different things. So these definitely do not have to be exactly the same as the ones that I'm making, but I want you to kind of take some freedom and make those shark letters nice and sharp, I guess. So besides 100 days sharper, you could also do 100 days smarter. Maybe you could have a little brain. You could do 100 days kinder, and maybe you could have some hearts or some flowers. 100 days brighter with a big sunshine. So feel free to add in any ideas you might have. And Felicia, if I miss them, you can go ahead and help me. I don't think I've seen any yet.
That's
So the
why I
goal.
think we're all good.
Okay.
Just remind everybody that definitely this is a little different setup. It's a webinar, but I do have the chat open. So
Yep.
you are welcome to add your questions to the chat, or if you wanted to, you can add them to the Q&A section.
Yes. And if you aren't able to chat with us right now, but you are working on this project, this 100 days t-shirt project, we would love to see your finished project. And so you can share with us at Learn with Michaels on Instagram. Just tag us in your post, and then we can see what kind of ideas you have. I love coming up with all the different clever ideas, and I love seeing everybody else's creativity. So they've been doing these 100 days shirts for several years now. And so it's fun to see a big, 100 days brighter with a light bulb. I love that idea. And you can do some like yellow, bright lights of ray coming across. So I would love to see that too. I'm going to keep my letters about the same thickness as I did with the other ones. So I'm going to be taking these strips. You may have seen me fold my 6x9 paper into 4 strips, and I'm going to fold these. And actually, I'm going to make the sharper a little bit thinner just so I can make sure that it fits across the size. So instead of folding these in half and in half again, I'm going to actually fold them into 1/6, which is like thirds. So let me see if I can do that first before I tell you. So when I do thirds, I do what I call a burrito fold. So if I'm trying to fold this rectangle into thirds, I fold it like a burrito, like roll it up. And then I check right here to make sure that it's about even. And when it is about even, I smush that burrito down. And then I have 3 equal pieces. So here's 1, here's 2, and here's 3. And then I can fold each one of these in half to make my letters a little bit skinnier so that I can make sure I can fit that whole entire word sharper across the bottom. And then once you kind of have the size, you can keep making all your rectangles a similar size. Make sure we have enough letters for sharper. S-H-A-R-P. I need a couple more. I'll show you that burrito fold again. 100 days smarter with a big cookie and 100 crumbs around. That is a good idea. I like that one. 100 days smarter with a big cookie. Smart cookie. Ooh, or 100 days smarter, like smarty. Smarty pants is what I was thinking. Maybe like a pair of jeans. That could be funny. When I was a teacher, I definitely never taught kids that were this small. But when I was a middle school and high school teacher, I used to have a board called the Smarty Pants board, where whoever got the highest score on a test or on a quiz would get to sign their name on this pair of Smarty Pants. And it sounds dumb, but you would not believe how motivating it was to some kids to be able to sign the Smarty Pants. That was kind of a fun thing. Smarties, candies, yes. So again, if this becomes tedious, which of course it will at some point, because 100 of anything can take a long time to set up or to cut or to get ready. We also have different foam pieces at Michael's that are already cut into different shapes. So we have flowers, we have numbers, we have hearts in different shapes like that. So you can always get some pre-cut shapes too if you don't want to cut all of them out yourself. Sharper. I think I cut this one the opposite way. There we go. All right, so I'm going to use the same kind of block letter technique, but this time I'm going to be a little funkier. So remember with my letter S, the goal is to take out a rectangle and take out a rectangle, but I'm going to be cutting kind of jaggedy because I'm making these letters look like they were shark bitten. So I'm taking out a rectangle, but I'm definitely cutting it out in a funky way. I think it's better on the white. There we go. I'm going to cut out a rectangle here, but do it in a funky way. Lots of triangles and zigzags. So this is already looking pretty good, but I am going to cut a little bit more into the S. So again, if you're doing this with a kid, I think it would be fun for you to cut out the block letter and then for them to kind of go back through and cut out the little bites and just tell them to take off some different triangles and cut into your letter, but still make it look like the letter it's supposed to. So that's something they can do to help you out. So if you have the block letter H and then they come back and add some cuts to it, that could be really fun. Or another option is for them to start working on the teeth while you're working on the block letters. So when you're doing the block letters, you can give them these long strips of yellow and just cut a really long rectangle, probably only about a half an inch thick. And then they can zigzag that rectangle into all these triangle bits and pieces that are definitely going to help you fill out the shirt with 100 teeth that are hanging out. What else is sharp? Maybe a porcupine, and it could have a bunch of quills. The quills and like the cactus points for me, just like a rectangle, a black rectangle, I think is a great way to kind of represent that. I started this and didn't finish. So I'm gonna need another letter. It happens. And if you have a larger shirt or a smaller shirt, you can kind of look at it and decide how big you want your letters to be. That can kind of be up to you. So with my A, I'm going to jaggedly kind of cut off the two bits at the top to make that. I'm going to jaggedly cut out a little bit of a rectangle here. I'm going to fold this in half to cut out the little bit of the A. Make it jaggedy. So I'm excited to see if there's some other phrases that maybe you've used in the past. I've seen that some that have been like gumball machines, and then there's lots of pom-poms. I think that's a great way. So also in the chat, someone said if they need help but want to cut it all, a good way is to use a marker on the backing. Yeah, so make sure if you trace it for them, make sure that you're tracing it backwards so that when they cut it and face it this way, when you glue it down or take the peel off, everybody can kind of make sure that they have their letters in the correct way. But I think that's a great way, yes, for them to keep participating because sometimes they do want to do the whole thing themselves. Absolutely. So sometimes it's fun to give a task, and sometimes it's fun to just kind of watch their creativity go too. And remember, I also suggested that if you don't have the template, you can also get some stencils, some letter stencils, and then you don't have to do any printing or transferring anything. You can just go straight to tracing it on the red foam and have the kids cut them out. I'm working on my R right now. Goldfish around a fishbowl. What would you use for your phrase for that? If you had goldfish around a goldfish bowl, that would be fun. What would I put? Sharper. 100 days of school. A school with the fishbowl would be cool. I like that, 100 days of school, actually. That's a good idea. Cutting out this P. And I like the jaggedy kind of font we're creating as we go down here. Swimming through 100 days. That's a good one to go with those goldfish. And yeah, because this is kind of like a one-time use thing, and if you're willing to do some hot glue with your kids, put real goldfish crackers on the shirt, or cut out these little tiny foam. We could make a fish so easy out of foam too by just kind of cutting a triangle and cutting an oval. And then voila, you could have a ton of these little fish floating around on your t-shirt. That's fun. So yeah, 100 days of school, swimming through 100 days, all of those sound like great ideas. And if you don't want to do sticky back foam with the letters, another idea, of course, is to use paint or markers. And if you want to watch your child make their own letters and write it themselves, I mean, I'm sure they would be very proud of themselves. I don't know if we will all be able to read it, but you could practice on a practice piece of paper beforehand. So keep that in mind too. Yeah, definitely. If we glued real goldfish on a shirt, I do believe you that children will just eat them. I mean, how could you not? They're a delicious treat. So I agree. Hold off on the real goldfish crackers. All right. And the ones somebody said before about 100 days smarter with Smarties, they don't have to be real Smarties either, but you could definitely make some Smartie designs or things that look like rolls of Smarties that people would not be tempted to eat during the day, because that's a real problem. You've been around kids. All right, I love it. 100 Days Sharper is looking good. So Felicia also just put in the chat that there is a DIY sponge stencils that you can do too. So yeah, we have little sponge things on dowel rods, basically little wooden dowel rods that are already pre-cut sponges too. So if you make some kind of phrase that makes sense and then you have a bunch of those little stamps, the kids would love putting some paint onto their t-shirt with all the stamps. I also have a friend who used like those bingo daubers kind of paint that have the little circles, and the kids just bingo daubered all over the place and did 100 of those little circles. So both of those are great ideas too. I am ready to peel up and start adding on my letters. So the first thing I'm going to do is figure out exactly where my shark is going to go, because I want this to be in the center of my t-shirt. I'm pulling off the backing. I've got the stickiness ready to go. And then I'm going to add my 100. And like I said before, I'm going to make my days kind of go down. And then I'm going to put my sharper going across the top. I think I want the 100 to be straight. So I'm ready to peel this off. And it is a pretty decent adhesive. It doesn't immediately peel back up. So I do think it's going to make it through the day. But it definitely will not go through the wash if you're just using the peel and stick. So if you want to make that more permanent, you could use felt and you can use hot glue, or you can use this foam and use hot glue, but I recommend using a low temp hot glue if you're using the foam so you don't melt it. Looking good already. And the fun part I was telling you before too is making sure that you have 100 on the shirt, so you can have 100 of the little sharp teeth. So here's my sharper. I'm going to kind of center my word. So the R is in the middle. It's going to go below the mouth. And feel free to use a ruler down here if you want to keep it nice and straight. But if you want this word to kind of be kind of funky and look like it was attacked by a shark too, there's nothing wrong with that. Let the kids put on the letters however they want to, just to make sure that it still says sharper. 2 more. And then I'm going to go to town with the little triangles. And we're doing great. So you can definitely finish up this project in about an hour, even with small hands and their help. I think you could get this done. So now I'm going to show you again I'm going to take a little rectangle, little strip of the yellow, and it is about a half of an inch thick, and it could be thicker or thinner. And I'm going to cut on the diagonal, and I'm just going to go to town, start cutting back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, and creating all of these triangles. And then these are very fun for the kids to place all over the shirt. If you want to go front and back, you can, but I have been able to fit the 100 teeth just on the front. So if you're doing something larger, like when we were talking about a fish before, you might need to use the front and back of the t-shirt in order to fit all 100 of your fish. But I tend to make a pile of these and count them. But depending on if you're working with a little one, you might want to count as you go. Keep counting a couple of different times to make sure that you are both on the same track of making sure that you get 100. But again, just to kind of show you the idea with these teeth, you're just peeling them off and sticking them on pretty much all over the shirt. And in order to fit 100, you will end up using pretty much the entire front of the shirt. And if you need to go onto the sleeves or if you need to go onto the back, you can. But it's definitely good practice for them to keep counting. Count as they go, count again, ask them how many are in this section, how many are in this section, keep track of them together, and try to make sure that you have 100. If you didn't want to do the letters, remember you can use paint and you can just paint the letters directly onto the shirt. If you are painting on your shirt at any point, make sure that you stick a piece of cardboard in between, underneath the shirt, in between the two layers so that it doesn't seep through and get the other side of your t-shirt messed up as well. And we're just about towards the end of our class today, so we had some really great examples of other ideas you can do. Remember, I was telling you on the template, there is a cactus. So if you wanted to just cut that cactus out of some sticky back foam, you could put that in the center. I think on the example that I showed in the picture for this class, I put little wiggle eyes on it too, so that it was just a silly looking cactus with some funny eyes. So you can feel free to do that as well. And I'm getting close to the end of my t-shirt today. So if you have any last minute questions, let us know in the chat or in the Q&A. We'll make sure we answer them. And if you have any other good ideas to share with everyone, that would be great too. When you finish your shirt, be sure to share it at Learn with Michaels. Tag us, let us know. I've got another strip of yellow. Continuing to cut on the diagonal. And I have definitely lost count already. So I'm going to have to go back, but I know I'm not at 100 yet. And then I would definitely double check this to make sure that there are going to be 100. But I think you understand how the rest of this t-shirt project is going to go for me today. I'm going to keep going with all these teeth. I'm going to put them down onto the t-shirt. And then at the end, we are going to end up with another beautiful 100 Days Sharper t-shirt with all those 100 teeth all over. So that's the end of our class for today. Thank you for joining us. I hope that you're able to do this along with one of your little ones. Make this 100-day t-shirt, share with us at Learn with Michaels, and let us know how the project went. Thanks for coming. I'll see you again soon. Bye, everyone. Thank you.